Born in July of 1958, Mark Cuban, along with his two younger brothers Brian and Jeff, grew up in a Jewish middle-class household in Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania. His mother, Shirley, was a homemaker. His father, Norton, worked in an automobile upholstery store. Almost as soon as he was able, Cuban showed an affinity for business, selling garbage bags and other paraphernalia door-to-door within his neighborhood. Cuban graduated high school early, at the age of 17, and immediately started college, attending the University of Pittsburgh before transferring to Indiana University. With a shared love for Indiana Hoosiers basketball, Cuban teamed up with fellow Indiana alum Todd Wagner in 1995 to create AudioNet, which after a few years of work became Broadcast.com, one of the earliest means of streaming sports over the internet. After quickly gaining millions in revenue, Cuban sold Broadcast.com only a year after he and his team had finished it, with Yahoo purchasing it for $5.7 billion in Yahoo stock shares. This enormous sale paved the way for all of Cuban's future endeavors, including an ownership endeavor into his favorite sport, basketball. After Mark Cuban had sold Broadcast.com, he decided while watching a Dallas Mavericks game in 2000 that the money he had earned from the sale of his self-made tech company could afford him the entire Mavericks franchise, and that it did, as he purchased the Mavericks for $295 million from the previous owner, Henry Ross Perot Jr. Bleacher Report, one of the most renowned websites that focuses on sports news, has argued that Mark Cuban is by far the best owner that the Mavericks have ever had. He has created an art form out of connecting with fans, his own passion for Mavericks equaling, if not surpassing, their own. Many may wonder how Mark Cuban turned the Mavericks from a team at the bottom of the NBA to a position where they almost always make it deep into the playoffs. Mark Cuban utilized various marketing and business strategies to highlight the image of the Mavericks team and to get it to a point where the fan base and revenue for the team grew exponentially. One of these strategies consists of his attitude towards the Mavericks customers, which he focused on very legitimately. He wanted to make sure that the games sell out and that attending one of the Mavericks games is a fun and meaningful experience rather than a dull sight of 10 tall guys playing on a wooden floor. If fans were going to pay to see a game of basketball, Cuban wanted the experience to go above and beyond what they expected. Immediately after purchasing the Mavericks, Cuban funded the creation of the American Airlines Center, immediately creating a sports mecca that could attract fans from all over the country. With incredible knowledge of the game, Cuban hired excellent head coaches over the years, taking the Mavericks from out of the NBA's basement and providing them with greater success than they had ever known as a franchise, making the playoffs 17 out of the 23 years that Cuban has owned the team and winning the NBA championship in 2011. Another key enterprise that Cuban helped create is the popular reality TV show Shark Tank, an ABC special that as of 2022 has spanned 14 seasons. The reality show consists of small startups pitching their ideas to the Shark Tank investors, or sharks, in hopes of getting their help in growing their company, typically in exchange for equity or a stake in their business. The show has been instrumental in the success of many well-known products many people use on a day-to-day basis, such as the Scrub Daddy Sponge and the Squatty Potty Stool. Cuban is reportedly the richest shark on the show, with a net worth of $5 billion. He joined the show and has been a part of its investor panel since its second season in 2011. His three most expensive investments throughout his 12 seasons as a shark all saw him invest $1 million each in 1031 products, Rugged Maniac Obstacle Race, and Beatbox Beverages. Since Cuban's arrival on the show, its ratings have skyrocketed. As well as this, the show has also been awarded 3 Primetime Emmy Awards in the Outstanding Structured Reality Program category. Cuban has made many successful deals, as well as some less than perfect investments. After all, investing can be a gamble. Cuban estimates that a fourth of his investments have been very successful, half of them are still doing all right, and the remaining 25% he believes he should have known better than to invest at the time of the offer. He specifically recalls his investment in the breathometer in 2013, which marketed itself as the world's first smartphone breathalyzer. He believes this to be his worst investment on Shark Tank, as he unfortunately lost an estimated $500,000. Despite this loss, Cuban has not slowed down. Over the course of his time on the show, Cuban has made more than 200 deals, reportedly valued over $61 million. Even throughout all of his wins and losses, he explains that his investments are not always for profit. Mark Cuban tweeted in July 2022, quote, "Sometimes my deals are purely to help someone or send a message," end quote. Throughout his personal career, Mark Cuban has made a regular habit of providing enormous funding to a wide variety of charities. As long ago as 2003, Cuban established the Fallen Patriot Fund, a charity created to help families of U.S. military personnel who were killed or seriously injured during the Iraq War. The fund now supports the families of servicemen and women and first responders who were killed or seriously injured in the line of duty. In 2016, the Dallas City News reported that Cuban was donating $1 million to help cover for overtime work that the Dallas Police Department would work following the Orlando nightclub shooting earlier that year. And as reported by the Dallas Morning News in 2019, Cuban teamed up with Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, each donating over $1 million to help schools within Dallas ISD recover from destructive tornadoes that had recently swept the area. However, Cuban's charity work made a substantial leap during and following the events of the COVID-19 pandemic, when millions upon millions of people needed it most. Cuban's charity spread far and wide, helping people of all kinds of different careers and livelihoods. According to an article from the Dallas Morning News, Cuban donated $75,000 to the Bonton Farms, an urban farm which nearly had to close down due to pandemic restrictions. And, as covered on the Dallas Mavericks official website in March of 2020, Cuban and the Mavericks organization worked together to donate $500,000 to the UT Southwestern Medical Center, and, in April of the same year, donated $1.7 million to cover for the cost of meals for every single healthcare worker at local Dallas hospitals. In October of 2020, Cuban donated $1 million to the Dallas ISD schools to help cover the costs for PPE for students, helping them easily obtain items such as masks and hand sanitizer, allowing them to get back to school safely. Following the horrific winter storm which hit Texas in February of 2021, Cuban and the Mavericks donated $1.25 million to help pay for and maintain homeless shelters, food banks, house repairs for low-income families, and emergency rehousing. Throughout his career, Mark Cuban has been actively supporting and creating charities. But when enormous national needs gripped the country, Cuban took his charitable contributions to an even higher level. Throughout his life, Mark Cuban has proved himself time and time again as one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time, piloting huge endeavors such as the Mavericks and Shark Tank to great success, all the while ensuring that with the wealth he has amassed, he is always looking out for those in need.